program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the middle of the African bush for the New Year's Eve safari with a lovely young elephant bull. This is Safari Live. Ready?
Standing by.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Welcome to a magnificent evening here in South Africa. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have my good friend Brian Joubert and the sunshine thumb, because the sun has come out after a few days of overcast and cloudy weather. Together, Brent and Brian are the Killer Bees. And what a killer way to start with a young elephant bull in must. I would say he's just over 30, and he seems to be full of nonsense. I was hoping he might go splish and splash around in a pan, but it looks like he's found some nice green grass to graze instead. Now, if there's a young must bull around, there could be a nice breeding herd around, but they might not be too relaxed because of his presence. See, he's got that swagger. Remember, this is 100% live from the African bush, and also if you want to ask me any questions, you may, or any of the other guides, of course, use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or send us an email to questions@WildEarthTV. Hello, mister. Now, the elephants have been spread out for the last while. It's lovely to have them back. Again, we've had them quite a few different herds around, a couple of nice young must bulls about. So it is wonderful to have the largest mammal in Africa back with us. Sorry, 1 second, so that will be on the game drive. Afternoon over 109 Clove on Twin Dams to Terrapin, slowly mobile south. Okay, let's get a little bit closer. Oh, look there. As I said, there could be a breeding herd around, and in the distance, Brian, you see there, look, I see some other elephants moving about. Now, from that distance, I can't see whether they're young bulls or they are a breeding herd, but I have come down to this area to look for Kula, and hopefully the elephants haven't chased her about. So we're going to keep moving and see what other elephants are about. While we do that, let's go say hello to Jamie, who's stomping about very petitely.
Hello and welcome on this afternoon's on-foot portion of this Sunset Safari. If this is your first time joining us on our live safaris, my name is Jamie, and this afternoon Jean-Dre is on camera with me, and we are currently at a log that I have nicknamed Venom Central. And the reason that I have called it Venom Central is because a log like this, with a beautiful open gap underneath the bark where the heartwood has rotted away, would be the perfect hiding space for all sorts of fascinating creatures, from spiders to scorpions, and in the case of something here, the perfect hiding place to shed its skin. And I think it's a little bit old, so it's a little bit stuck down. There we go. There we go. Now, here's the question. What on earth shed this particular pile of skin? It's all curled up, it's gone in on itself. So the snake that shed this was probably curled up around it when it discarded the skin. And of course the snake is very, very vulnerable when it sheds its skin. in the initial stages it can't see, its eyes have gone all milky because it starts shedding from the face first, which means that they have to seek out and find somewhere nice and protected and safe. And obviously this particular log with its sort of cavernous hollow underneath that I'm not going to go sticking my hand into or trying to shift it around, because I am sure there is sort of no end to the interesting creepy crawlies in here, and perhaps our snake. But I did manage to pluck this out, and I'm trying to guess exactly what it is. And my guess would be, gauging by the roughness of the scales and the width of this particular snake, my guess would be something like a very large puff adder. And a very large puff adder it would be. But that would be my guess. Just because this is particularly rough, it gives me the sort of the thought of an adder family rather than something smooth like a mamba or a cobra or one of those slightly larger snakes. And of course, puff adders, one of the most dangerous snakes in South Africa, in fact known as being the most dangerous snake in South Africa, not because it's got the most potent venom, although you don't want to get bitten by one, because it's going to be incredibly nasty, very painful, and it's going to leave you with a horrible secondary infection. And people do occasionally lose limbs, lose fingers, lose extremities to puff adder bites, so they are very, very nasty. But the reason it's known as South Africa's most dangerous snake is actually because it's a very docile snake. So it doesn't move away from a human being when we go up close to them. And in fact, I think all of us have very nearly stepped on a puff adder once or twice in our time. Luckily, they're kind enough to often alert you to their presence by going, hence the name puff adder. I once treated a horse all through the night that had been bitten on the nose by a puff adder, and that cytotoxic venom had turned the inside of its lips and its gums completely black. And all through the night we fought to keep this poor horse alive with a saline drip, and I was sitting up at the top of this rafters in the stable holding up this big bag of saline and trying to get a tube down its nose. Luckily it did survive, it was absolutely fine, but that just goes to show the potency of the venom of a puff adder, that it can affect something as large as a horse that badly. Now, speaking of large things, let's go back over to Brent, and I'm not, of course, talking just about Brent, I'm also talking about the elephants he's with.
Well, he's found himself a buddy. So, as I said, he's probably around late 20s, early 30s, and here we've got a young sort of teenager, maybe around 16, 17 years old. The rest of the herd is just behind us. We can't move the vehicle at the moment. Just wait for them to get a little bit further away. They do have not the youngest baby, but I know a lot of people are going to be very excited when I move the car and turn around and show you a specific elephant that a lot of people here really, really enjoy. And we have spent a lot of time with this particular female. We've watched this tiny calf grow up. Hey, mister, yeah. And you'll see shortly as she feeds who it is. It is indeed the short-trunked female. Hello, girl. Look at this, isn't it? You can see her short trunk. This is incredible. What a wonderful way to start the New Year's Eve safari with one of our favorite Ellies. And there she goes, and here comes the little one. We've watched him from about half that size. Hey, and there's trouble. You, don't get cheeky with me. Here comes the young musk bull. Yes, I see you, big boy. Bit older than the last musk bull we saw. Now, Super John is awesome, is wondering, why do elephants have wrinkles? Well, it's a product of having such thick skin and so much of it. I mean, they are able to march through the thickest thorns and absolutely no penetration on their skin. So it's just because they've got so much of it and it is so thick. Isn't that magnificent? Now they are heading towards the west. And it's amazing how these massive animals can melt into the bush so quickly. That young bull, he probably weighs around 4,500-5,000 kilograms, so close on 10,000 pounds. Now, we're going to keep moving. As I said, our original plan is to go look for Kula around the Moati River. So I'm really hoping the Queen puts in a New Year's Eve appearance. You know, the dignified wave. How do you do the wave, Brian? Show me. There we go. Brian's much better at the Queen wave, as you saw in the silly season video. Is that what you did, Brian? But while the elephants have disappeared, we're going to disappear while we look for Queen Kula. James has got a noisy, spotty bird to show you.
Bush you can see, down a bit, and to the right, and to the right. A little bit more. Stop there. No, you've missed them. Go left. Yes, we're live. Okay, good. That is excellent. There, zoom in there. Hello, everyone. There, left. That's it. Crested Francolin hiding in the bushes, trying to get away from David. I'm afraid I seem to have lost communications with the final control, but David possibly has them. So if you'd like to ask any questions, #Safari Live, questions at WildEarthTV, and we'll tell you all we can about the crested guinea fowl. I think that's a rather nice picture of them there, sitting in amongst the tall guinea grass and the fresh Gymnosporia senegalensis, that's the red spike thorn there. And I've seen lories, or grey go-away birds, eating the buds of those red spike thorn trees, so maybe that's what they're doing there. Maybe they're just seeking out some shelter. Right, of course, you haven't seen me today, unless you were watching the ridiculous pre-show. My name is James Henry. It's wonderful to be with you today. David is on camera. That's David's thumb. And we're on Arathusa at the moment, and we've got merciful signal, which is excellent stuff. I cannot hear your questions at the moment. We'll try and sort that out as the time goes on. Anyway, that is the state of affairs here. We're going to go down towards the lodge once we've finished with our guinea fowl, at least our Francolins. Let's have one more look at them. And we'll see what's knocking about here. I was hoping maybe Tingana, perhaps Shadow, perhaps even Salesh, that mysterious female leopard of whom we hear so much. She hangs around on Elephant Plains and Simbambalai. And the Anderson male, indeed, David. That would certainly be a first sighting for me. This leopard, who is apparently the size of a lioness, has the aggression of 1,000 must-bull elephants, the strength of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and the attitude of Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime. Can you hear her? Is she speaking to you, David? Okay, no questions currently. God, I wonder why I can't hear. Let me plug myself in and out again. It's very distressing. Anyway, they're looking for some seeds, for some shade, and some safety, of course, because anywhere around here, the Anderson male and all those characteristics I've described could be lurking. I think we've given far too much heed to the humble crested Francolin, and so now that we've paid them sufficient heed and respect, we'll carry on down south. We were going to show you some helmeted guinea fowl. Unfortunately, they disappeared. On we go, David. There we go. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous afternoon out. 28 degrees Celsius. That's an easy one to remember if you need to convert it to Fahrenheit. 82 degrees Fahrenheit. See? 28, 82. Good. And there's a big storm coming from the west. It's over Acorn Hook as we speak, which is a dubious settlement off to the western side, 20 miles or so from where we are now. And what all these clouds are doing is just diffusing the light so that everything looks really pretty and cheerful. For the last drive, everybody, of the year 2016 Anno Domini, or the Common Era, depending on your bent. babbler. They were in that bush there, David. They've gone away, however. Let's continue. Babblers are not very good at being on TV, but Burchell starlings are slightly better, as are Cape glossies. There's one just at the top of that tree. You got him there? Oh, no, not so good then. All right, let's continue. And I imagine as the heat has built, it was quite a cool morning, and then it was quite a nice, sort of easy, warm midday, and it's turned into a nice warm afternoon. I'm sure there's going to be quite a lot of insect life, and I'm pretty sure Jamie will show you quite a lot of that. Perhaps some termite alates and crickets and things. Quick link to somewhere, can't hear. Bye-bye, see you shortly.
Look at this. This is one of the best slender mongoose sightings I've had on Djuma. Look at him. He's scurrying about in the Mawati riverbed. Normally it's just the most fleeting glimpse of these awesome little predators. Oh, he's actually going to move out into the open. Wouldn't that be incredible? Oh, look at that. He still doesn't quite trust our presence. Now, even though he's so small, he is able to take down prey much bigger than himself. Francolin, squirrels, lots of other small birds. Oh, looks up in the tree. They're actually very good climbers as well. Oh, let's try. Hopefully it doesn't disappear. If we can get another view around the corner. Where'd he go, Brian? Still got him. Where? I don't know where I'm looking.
Seconds, and then it changed to 10 seconds.
And we are still on our bushwalk on foot. My apologies, because we are still trying to sort out a minor problem with the bushwalk backpack. So we're just busy sorting that out as we speak, but that's okay. We'll have a look at this termite that's acting very oddly while we do that. Let me move out of the way so that I can show you. Now, this termite looks like it was one of the reproductive alates. So in other words, at some point it had wings. And it's currently doing what all alates do, which is spray pheromones up into the air. Now, it has lost its wings at some point because, of course, all of these reproductive members of the alate termite family will come out winged, go off in search of their partner, and then fly off. Now, the question that I have to ask is why on earth it's digging in the way that it is, because it's clearly not accomplishing anything. The reason its abdomen is tilted up like that is it's releasing pheromones into the air, but this digging motion is a complete mystery to me, and I've been sitting here watching this for the last 3 minutes, digging in exactly the same spot, accomplishing nothing. Just digging up rocks and stones and moving them around. That is a complete and utter mystery to me. I have no idea why that is. What are you doing? No idea. I don't know why it's digging. I don't know if it's trying to dig itself a new termite mound. If it is, it's chosen a very, very peculiar spot to do that, in thick, hard and sandy soil. So I guess we'll leave our reproductive termite alate and carry on along down the road and see what we can see. Very strange. Looks completely crazy while it's doing that. Now, earlier on, we were talking about the puff adders and the different effects that they have on, or the venom and effects that they have on people and on animals. And we were talking about the fact that they are probably one of the most dangerous snakes that we get out here. The other reason behind that, because I never had a moment to actually chat about that, is because they are, of course, one of the most widely distributed snakes in South Africa. And that is something I would really like to put on camera, because not only are they widely distributed and quite venomous, they're actually beautiful. But there's all sorts of interesting creepy crawlies out here. here, as well as the fact that Brent is searching for Karula, James is searching for all kinds of other things. Stay tuned to find out what we find for you. And I have found a baboon spider. I know Rebecca said that I must hold off speaking, but it was getting awkward. And there are no real ad breaks, so I'm talking. Here's a baboon spider hole over here. Sorry everybody, we were right in the middle of trying to fix something, so we're busy when James lost signal. So we're sort of quite haphazardly wandering along down the road. Did you manage everything, Jandre? No. Okay. Now here we have our baboon spider hole, and it is an active baboon spider, so somewhere in there the female is inside. My brother has a profound fear of spiders. He really doesn't like them. He hasn't liked them for as long as I have known him, and as long as he was old enough to know what a spider is. And on the morning that my family and I went to the Kruger National Park, and that was over just before Christmas, we got up very, very early, 4 o'clock in the morning, lights are all on, and my mum and I both spotted this massive baboon spider male. And I assume it's a male because it lives in our house. It doesn't live underneath the ground, which the females do. But we saw this massive baboon spider on the side of the wall, and we marveled over it. And then I went and woke up my brother, who then proceeded to walk past it about 3 times before he spotted it, and the whole time I was watching and waiting for him to actually notice this baboon spider. But I wish you could have seen the levitation that he performed. It was impressive. I swear he crossed half the room in one jump. And there we go. Now we've got 2 reproductive elates, so I guess what ours was doing was digging itself a hole in the road as it forages away down beneath the surface of the soil. And we've got 2 here, so perhaps this lucky pair actually did manage to find each other. Now, Jonathan, you want to know how many types of termites there are in South Africa. And Jonathan, the answer, I'm not quite sure of exactly how many. We probably, out here, there are lots of different species of termites. We probably mainly see about 6 different species of termites just here in the Lowveld. But there are lots and lots of others throughout the different parts of South Africa. And that, of course, is one of the big reasons is that South Africa is one of the most diverse countries in the world, just in terms of different ecosystems. So you've got lots and lots of different termites. But I'll have a look and find out, Jonathan, to how many termites we have in South Africa. I know we probably see about 6 or 7, up to about 10 out here. So there must be far more than that throughout the rest of the country. Right, all sorts of things popping out after the 2 days of rain that we've had. Let's go and see which ones Brent has found.
Well, it's not the leopard we were looking for, but it is indeed a leopard tortoise, a very big old one. That is about the size of a football, so a really big one. And it's engaged low-range 4-wheel drive as it goes up a particularly steep bank. Now, they do love the summertime. Look at all that lush grazing around him. Oh, it looked like him. I couldn't see too well underneath as it was walking. And you'll notice there's been an emergence of termites as well that flutter through the screen every now and then. They are so cool. The armoured cars or tanks of the bush. And of course their cannon is their way to their defense mode, which is obviously to void their bowels. What else would it be? I mean, really. Welcome back, everyone. We found a leopard, but not the leopard we were looking for. It is the leopard tortoise, who's busy sneaking away into some thick greenery. And of course you'll see this sort of things flashing in front of your screen, and it is of course a termite emergence. So the future kings and queens of the termite world are flying about us. Now that could cause for some excellent bird viewing today, as the bird species are incredibly fond of termite alates, and who knows, I might snack on one as I go. But we are going to continue checking for Kula, the female leopard. Now, Alani would like to know, do tortoises have sensory receptors on their shells? No, they don't. So basically, it's made up of keratin, which is the same thing hair and fingernails are made up, and bones. So their sensory receptors, well, they'll have nerve endings in their feet, and of course their eyes, ears, and nose on their face. Okay, so no sign so far of Kula. We've checked the whole Moari River, or the areas we can drive, and not a track thus far. But I am going to have a quick look around Twin Dams. That is an area where she has been leaving her cubs quite regularly, and they seem to play around that area. So let's go have a look. For those of you wondering, Kula is our dominant female leopard. She's got 2 cubs of about 10 months old, Hosanna and Shongile, or 11 months shortly. 11 months on the 2nd of January. So anywhere around this area, they've been frolicking, trying to catch terrapins and chasing birds. If we get no luck here, it means they're probably still south of our traverse, and what that means is we're going to head back up to the north and then start slowly moving our way through where Jamie last saw her on the sunrise safari. But it looks like there's some more elephants at Twin Dams. It's so nice and lovely to have the elephants back with us. Brian, just before we go to the Ellies, sorry, I just saw some movement in there. Oh, it's a little water Thicknee for the birders. One of the poor bird species that will be terrorized by young leopards. There we go, another small breeding herd of Ellies. Baby's a bit younger than the one we saw last time. Now, Elana, who's 13, says, well, if elephants had more sets of teeth and didn't die of malnutrition, what would be the leading cause of death? Well, Elana, it would probably be, I don't know, maybe a heart attack or something, as they got too old and their organs started to fail. We're going to leave those lovely elephants to continue on their foraging, and I definitely have leopard on the brain for the sunset safari today. Okay, well, we're going to keep searching for those incredible leopards of the Sabi Sands. While we do that, James has got some antelope to show you.
Indeed, we do have some antelope, the most common antelope that we get here. But you know what? Over the last 2 mornings, we when we've been doing these rehearsals, we haven't found one impala. And I think that's on account of the chilly weather that we've had. And we found some signal here as well, so that's good. We'll sit around here for a little while. But the light is just so beautiful. It's one of those afternoons that really makes you feel quite inspired with the world. And that is a good feeling to have as we head into the year 2017, David. Can you believe it? Isn't it amazing how people always say, I can't believe it's the end of the year? And yet, because they consistently say it, you'd think that it was less of a surprise when the end of the year rolled around yet again. Anyway, a very sweet little group of impala, females and babies on their first New Year's Eve. May it be one that is free of lions, leopards, hyenas, and anything else that might want to eat them. There is a squirrel alarm calling up ahead. I would normally have started the engine and driven off at a great speed, but I think that it is a brown snake eagle that I can see that perhaps they are that they're alarming at. Now we have an interesting question here from Rasputin Jr., i.e. Alex Vos's son Leon. Now Alex Vos, of course, is our technical genius here, and Leon wants to know what we are doing. Leon, we're taking a live safari. Now, I would suggest that you ask your father that, because he's probably in a better position to explain it. But what we're doing is looking at some beautiful antelope over there. We're enjoying the smells and sights of Africa, watching a storm rolling in from the west, and feeling very, very inspired by being out in the wilderness on an afternoon that is as magnificent as the one we're experiencing now. Was that sufficiently purple prose? Good. It really is just lovely. Okay, we're going to move on from here, and now we're going to head on to the Arathusa airstrip and get another view like this, and we need to check our signal there, so you can come along with us, everybody. Come on then, and we'll go and have a look there. I'll also show you the brown snake eagle. And this is actually quite interesting. It's not the best view of a brown snake eagle you'll ever have, but even that little view that we have there is obvious if you know what you're looking for. So, I mean, many people, if they were starting out as birders, they'd look at that bird and say, good gracious, how on earth do you tell what it is? And your answer to them would be, well, he looks like he's got a big head, basically. He looks like he's got a much bigger head than most raptors do. He's just watching some vultures go past there. Isn't that cool? That's very cool. They're just flying in front of the storm there. That's gorgeous. And then he's got that little crest that sticks out the back of his head, like a big head with bed hair, basically. Looks a little bit like Brent Leo Smith after he's got up in the morning, you know, before he's brushed his long locks. And of course I'm only casting aspersions on his long locks on account of the fact that I don't got any anymore. And that's how you know that that is a brown snake eagle, sitting silhouetted with a giant storm rolling in from the west. Isn't that gorgeous? Ooh. Magnificent. Okay, on we go. Some buffalo tracks here, and we did see a little breeding herd of buffalo just before we left Djuma. Maybe there is another one around here. There are apparently also the other three Birmingham boys are somewhere around, I think, on Elephant Plains. Or some Bambalai. Now, Leon Vos says, good luck to us. Thank you, Leon. And as Leon wishes us fond good luck, we are going to link across to Brent Leo Smith, who has now decided that he's going to go to Chitwa.
Yes, we have. I heard some devastating news over the radio from Aubrey that at 9 o'clock, so after we had already closed down this morning, Kula went south. So maybe she'll be back this evening, but till then, it's always wonderful to go to a new place. So we're going to do something that I don't think's ever been done before. We're going to go through Chitwa to Cheetah Plains. Okay, now I'm pretty sure there was a road around here somewhere that takes us down. Now again, it's a bit like driving around like this because you're not quite sure where the roads are. I actually want to have a look for Tundi around the southern boundary. Hi, John, who's 11 years old. A big welcome to Safari Live, John. And John would like to know, what is the most common big cat we see? Well, John, it depends. We go through patches where we see more lions and more leopard, but I'd say lion and leopard are the two most common cats we see. Cheetah is the most rare of the big cats that we get in this area. Now, I'm hoping that we're going to see a leopard in this area. Now, this is where Tundi's territory is, going down towards the Chitwa Lodge. Okay. We have found her in this area sitting in a tree quite often. She does like certain of the big marula trees in this area. Her particular favorite is coming up on the left, so I just want to check there before we delve into Chitwa. Do we see a tail hanging from the tree, Brian?
Let's go.
And sorry about that. I think that Brent got cut off in mid-signal, but that's okay because we found one of the most fascinating creatures in the bush that is very highly mobile. Wait, come back here. Wait. Come here. Go on, little millipede. There we go. That's what I was after. We often stop to look at them, but I haven't stopped to look at a millipede properly in a very, very long time. And they're always fascinating. Whoopsie. We lost our balance there, mister. It's always fascinating to watch the way in which they move and the way in which those thousands of legs manage to somehow coordinate together to create this almost wave-like motion as it moves. And look, it's coming towards you, Jadre. Wants to climb into the camera. No, it's very intimidating. They're one of my favorite creatures to not play with, but just to sort of interact with in some ways. You can see he's not too bothered. If he was scared, he'd be wrapped up in a ball. Now, all he really wants to do is he's currently on a sort of never-ending treadmill. And there we go. The fascinating thing about little millipedes... Oh, goodness. He deposited a little friendly reminder upon my hand. Here we go. So we'll pop a little millipede on my knee, and it gives us a lovely opportunity as it walks along to really get an idea of the way in which they move, but also sort of the fascinating biology behind a millipede. The fact that, for example, their reproductive organs sit not in the sort of normal place that you would expect, but actually behind the first 4 pairs of legs. So the first 4 pairs of legs are single rather than double, and then the rest of them form this double, almost claw-like effect as it goes along. And I think they're fascinating. I spent my childhood picking them up and letting them roll over me, walk over me. It's got a very soft, almost soothing, quite hypnotic motion and effect. We're going to be taking a short break, but who knows what we might find on foot. And of course, the search for the Queen Karula continues with Brent. Stay tuned and join us. We'll see you then. And for those of you that are all watching on the internet, and therefore none of you are actually going on a TV break, we apologize for the practicing of the commercials. We have to practice our timing for them, because if we go over, then we get cut off in mid-sentence and it looks unprofessional, and if we go under, then we get into trouble. So, there you go. Right, let's pop our millipede back down, and we'll carry on. I think I might have ended that one slightly early, Rebecca, for which I do apologize. He's stuck. He doesn't want to let me go. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Okay, alright, I'll move. You have right of way. Off you go. I think they're fascinating. I really do. And it's such a beautiful afternoon. Now that the sun's come out, we're seeing the sun for the first time in days. It is lovely to see the beautiful light. We've got dark storm clouds off to the west and then beautiful blue skies. It's so lovely. Now, Alice, you wanted to know something. Did you hear what she wanted to know, John? I couldn't quite hear exactly what it was that Alice wanted to know about. She wants to know if we have something. Earthworms. Yes, we do. We do have earthworms in our traverse area. I'm sorry, Alice, I wasn't 100% sure. It could have been earthworms. It could also have been practically anything else, because I didn't hear it all. So earthworms, yes, we do. We do get earthworms. Of course, earthworms are a crucial part of aerating the soil. In almost all ecosystems, they play a very, very important role. And there are, of course, lots and lots of snakes that live underneath the surface of the ground and hunt things like earthworms and catch them. Frogs will eat them, so they actually provide quite an important food source as well. And I feel as though I'm walking through a glade at the moment. Okay, well, it was fun until I tripped over the branch. I feel as though I'm walking through a glade at the moment. It's absolutely beautiful. The grass is bright emerald green. The sun is shining through the silver cluster leaves. It's a really, really stunning afternoon. It's so much fun to be out on foot once again. And of course, checking for all of the various creatures that have come out after the rain. And I'm walking through here, and you can't really see it because it's so small, but as I'm walking through, it's like there's fireworks going off around my feet. It's just grasshoppers absolutely everywhere. I don't know how to try and catch one. Now, Debbie, while I attempt to try and catch your grasshopper, or at least show you what I mean, look here, okay. Don't jump. There are 5 in this area. Okay, now there's 4. There were 5, there's now 4, and they're all incredibly well hidden. And that's what I mean when it's like fireworks. They just sort of spray out from every single direction. Now, Debbie, you wanted to know, moving on from our grasshoppers, whether or not millipedes' feet are ticklish. Yes, they are. Not too ticklish, though. Maybe just because my hands are a bit callous and I can't really feel it as sensitively as I might otherwise. But no, they're not too I mean, they are quite ticklish, and I imagine, but it's actually quite a nice feeling, I think. I think it's quite pleasant. I promise you, I can't explain it to you, and I don't think it's possible to capture it on camera. But it's the most amazing effect as you stroll along, and you sort of, as you step, there's this explosion of grasshoppers each and every direction. It's really, really pretty. Can't really convey it. And just step delicately over the thorns and start making our way into the block on the western edge of Djuma. I would have loved to have gone to try and help Brent follow up on Kula. It was wonderful spending the morning with her, but unfortunately, with the problems that we're having with our backpack and trying to sort it out, we won't be able to go to this area. So we're just going to stroll and search for all sorts of things that might have popped out after the rain. That, of course, includes things like terrapins. Let's go and have a look at the one that James has found.
Indeed, it does include things like terrapins and what we've just heard at this very waterhole, a snoring puddle frog. That's a wonderful sound. I think that's what we heard, snoring puddle frog. Then I think it may also, I just want to quickly check, the striped stream frog, perhaps. No, I've got the wrong thing here. Right, now we're going back to television, everybody, very soon. And, well, you know what that means, of course. We'll have to do a recap. And this is all practice for our live shows, of course. And that means that we're very grateful to you for being with us on this. Right, here we go. Welcome back, everybody, to this spectacular wildlife show live from the African wilderness here on the western fringes of the Great Kruger National Park. A huge storm burgeoning from the west over there. My name is James Henry, and out on foot, of course, we have Jamie Patterson. She is with some millipedes who have been caught in flagrante delictum. And then Brent Leo Smith is looking for Karula down in the far southeast. That's what's going on. We're looking here at some terrapins, and also trying to identify the noises of the frogs that are calling over here. And it is the most beautiful afternoon, like I said. Just gorgeous. Right, I think also it could have been a bushveld rain frog. Let's listen to that. No, it wasn't. Right, so what we heard was a snoring puddle frog, everyone, while you were away. And the snoring puddle frog sounds like this. I'll play him for you. He unsurprisingly sounds like he is snoring. There we are. And then also, this rather special pan of water has got some special things up at the top. David, if you wouldn't mind showing us the... That's it. The foam nest frog's nest, created by the enormous amount of very amorous activity that takes place when a female frog comes into estrus, or she gets ready to mate, and lots of males will jump on top of her, and the commotion creates that foamy nest into which she'll lay her eggs, and those eggs will then plop down into the water below. And then, of course, that sort of very uncomfortable looking pile of thorny sticks behind the nest of the red-billed buffalo weaver, two of which are shouting at each other as we speak. Isn't that gorgeous? One of them, I wonder if they're not thinking about becoming amorous themselves. I've not seen that sort of behavior before. Anyway, it seems a little bit late in the season for them to be thinking about mating, but they might be. And then one last thing down here, Dave. If you look down, I know this is the cameraman's nightmare to make you look at a dragonfly, but there's one settled on a sedge that's sticking out of the water. God, have you got him there? He flew off. Can you believe? And let's just see if we can't identify which dragonfly he is. He's the ones with the black wings, and dragonflies are normally named quite obviously. Kathy, you want to know if there are any aquatic flowers? Oh, well done. Oh, that's the red one. I think that's called a red skimmer, if I'm not mistaken, but I'm going to just look it up. Kathy, there are not many aquatic flowers out here. We do get lilies and a water hyacinth, which is unfortunately exotic in some of these water holes, but this one, no, we don't have a huge number of very colourful aquatic flowers out here. Let me quickly try and find... There it is. It is a skimmer, everyone, that red one, and well, it just says that it is a skimmer. There are lots of different kinds of them. It's a whole family of skimmers, and I think that one is a red skimmer. Very nice. Gorgeous. Okay, on we go. We're heading towards the main Arathusa Dam. Last time I went there was absolutely no water whatsoever. So we'll see if there's any water now after the great deluges. Right, Jamie Patterson, as I suspected this afternoon, is having all the luck with all the small things as the sun's gone down. This one is a little bit worm-like, but it isn't a worm.
All the luck and finding all the things out here just after the rainfall, and that's the magic of walking around in the bush just after the rain. And we actually had a discussion about who wanted to walk, and I said I really did, because I love going out in the first warm afternoon just after the rain, because you get all sorts of creepy crawlies, just like this incredible caterpillar. My guess would be that it is a moth caterpillar, but I'm not 100% sure. It could easily be a butterfly caterpillar as well. But that is definitely not something that one wants to put into your mouth. What do you think, Chandre?
Let's try.
No, let's not try. Let's not do that at all. Let's not try that at all. In fact, let's not even touch it with our bare skin, because it is in fact a hairy caterpillar, and all of those little hairs will embed themselves very uncomfortably in any part of your skin. And of course, Brent will have experienced that in the not too distant past, when he somehow got a hairy caterpillar in his shirt and wound up scratching himself against the tree, and then had to go home and sit like this without his skin touching anything for a good few hours. So it's very, very unpleasant. Our birds, of course, can eat them. Can and do, which is surprising because you wouldn't expect them to. One particular bird species that likes to specialize in these caterpillars is the black-headed orioles that we hear chirping away merrily with their beautiful song and their bright yellow bodies and black heads. You know, as the name black-headed oriole suggests. And what they will do is they'll catch it, hold it in the end of its beak, and then it will scrape it on something like a stick or a branch or a piece of wood, so that it can, I'll hold it with both hands rather than one. It's a pleasure, Chandre, sorry. Shaking away. They'll scrape it along a branch or something like that, so that they can get rid of all of the various hairs that sit on its body. It is a very pretty caterpillar underneath, bright green, with black spots and pink feet. I think the pink feet are my favorite part of it. I'm not sure whether you can see the pink feet or if they're hidden beneath the hairs. But they are pink feet. This caterpillar has pink feet. And one of the big evolutionary theories that was put forward as to why cuckoos parasitize other nests was the idea that they eat hairy caterpillars, which they do, much like our black-headed orioles. They eat hairy caterpillars and their babies can't cope with it. So the adults have to find somebody or find another bird species that will be able to catch them something slightly less harmful to feed them off, which doesn't make any sense at all. I remember reading that theory and thinking it was the most ridiculous thing. But that is one of the theories that's been put forward as to why cuckoos lay eggs in other birds' nests. Doesn't really make sense though, especially when you think the black-headed oriole doesn't do that. Right, I suppose we should put you back, Mr. Caterpillar. You're so pretty. He really, really is, but you really don't want one of these down your shirt. The only thing that could be worse than this, perhaps... But I thought his head was the other end. Oh, that his head is the other end. Oh, man, I went into my shoe. Some fresh caterpillar frass. Luckily, it is a vegetarian, it is a herbivore, so that is just processed plant materials that just popped out and landed. I cannot believe, of all of the places to land on, that landed in my shoe. I wanted to actually show you what fresh caterpillar frass looks like, but I think it's gone in there. So that is the millipede and the caterpillar now today already, and it's not even 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Right, well, I go and never mind. We're not going anywhere. We're going to stay exactly where you are, and we're going to go for a walk instead. We were going to go over to Brent, but he doesn't have any signal, so we're going to continue along on our walk. Let's go and see what we can find. Oh, there's termites absolutely everywhere as well. And one of the things that I'm hoping to find on this post-rainy afternoon is perhaps an eagle of some description sitting on the ground. So I'm walking quite slowly. We're not really in any kind of a rush, and it might be nice to spot something like that on the ground, feeding off the termites that are popping out. There's lots and lots of them around. And the other thing I'm looking for is an example of herringbone grass. The reason I'm looking for herringbone grass is because it's the grass that I think has the best name of all of the grasses. We've got to try and find one. Let's go through here. Let me try and find some of that for you as well. I've lost Rex. Oh, there he is. Found Rex again. I don't know why it is that today of all days I don't seem to have any sense of coordination. There's absolutely nothing happening. I just keep falling over everything. I've tripped over at least 5 things today. Right, let's go. This is another area where the termites have exploded. Their termite population has exploded. And we've got them all fluttering about. Now this is the perfect food source for things like leopards. Leopards will eat them. Hyenas will lick them up. other things like aardvarks, perhaps eagles, all sorts of things will come through and eat up the alates, or the reproductive members of the termite family. So these guys have all come out of here, and I just want to see if maybe I can find where they're actually exploding from. There must be something here. And this is one of the big reasons why we do get so many migratory eagles coming into this area during this time of year. The booted eagles, the lesser spotteds. Oh, hello! Surprise! And of course, frogs. That's also something. Well, that is also something that will eat termites, and that's why this bullfrog is here. Hello. You are most marvelous, but you are hidden. I don't want to upset him in any way. I just want to see if we can't get him out of the grass and into the open. Wow. That was a highly mobile frog. Chandra, did you get any of that high-speed race away? That was really seriously impressive. That was the fastest frog I have ever seen. That was absolutely incredible. How long do you think that took him? 2 seconds. It was about 2 seconds? No, 2.5, 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Watch out. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 meters in about, let's say, 3 seconds. Very interesting. Right, well, since our highly mobile frog has disappeared, let's go over and have a look at a stationary waterbuck.
Take a bite out of it.
We are not alone here on Arathusa, everybody. We have found 2 antelope that like to hang around the H2O. And there they are. A waterbuck, a bull, and David, just looking to his right-hand side, our left, 2 cows, his wives, and they look about as happy with the afternoon as I am. They're thoroughly enjoying the greenery that there is here, the coolth of the afternoon, but I suspect, much like me as well, they're looking up from where they are towards what is now a storm passing us to the north. So that's very good. I think that's the huge storm there. You can just see the white bits there. That's it falling down on the earth, probably in the northern Manyeleti, maybe even sort of southern Timbavati areas. But I think it seems to be passing us to the north, so that's very good. Oh, and there's the bull, and then eventually, I'm hoping, there's a little calf to the left as well. I think it'll come out from behind a tree. There it is. Now, those are the mums. The calf further, he hid himself basically from the camera. Just left, there you are. There's the little one. Get out from behind the tree. I don't want to move because it's coming towards us, and I don't want to give it a fright. I think it might get quite close. It's one of those little donkey-like baby waterbucks. Sort of leading the 2 cows, which is quite interesting. I wonder why he's walking in front of them. Well, that is a magnificent bull that we were looking at, everyone. He's a huge, huge fellow, and I suspect the dominant of this area. And that's, by dominant of this area, I mean dominant around the Arathusa Dam. God, he really is massive. There we are. There's mum and youngster. He's a very brave little fellow. Very pale too. Oh, that's gorgeous. Isn't that nice? Look at the nose moving, and that's because the wind is blowing basically from us onto them, so they'll pick up our scent now. They can see us, of course. but their view of us is going to be different from their smell of us. Their view of us, of course, is a vehicle with odd things sticking out of it that sort of look like humans, but not quite, because we're not standing. But their smell of us, they'll catch us in between the smell of brake fluid and clutch fluid and a little bit of petrol, and they'll be slightly nervous of that. That is just too pretty for words, isn't it? That is gorgeous. Now, Michael, excuse me, you're wondering about at what age Waterbuck will mate. I think it's roughly the same for just about all these antelope, all the bigger ones. It's probably around about 2.5 years for a female, but for a male, I would suspect not really before 5 or 6, because the bulls that's when they'll kind of get to their biggest, if you like, and the females will come and be they'll be ready much earlier, of course, because they don't fight for mating opportunities. And so I think you'll find that they probably breed as soon as they're about 2.5 years old. That really is just such a pretty, pretty picture as the sun comes out on them. I don't know why I find this afternoon quite as inspiring as I do. There's something about the light that is just too gorgeous. Chewing the cud, you can see they haven't been grazing while we've been watching them. And look how nicely backlit they are now. I'm really loath to start the engine because they're so confiding. They've come from so far away towards us. Especially this little one, he's rather fascinated by... tripped over a stick. Rather fascinated by us. And I suspect they're probably this relaxed simply because they live around Arathusa Dam, and of course then they see people and vehicles quite often. Erica, you say that you noticed that antelope never sleep. Is this true? Erica, it's not true, and I don't believe it's true of any animal, except maybe an insect. But an insect will normally die before it has the need to sleep. But it does vary, Erica, as to how deep their sleep is and how long they sleep for. An antelope absolutely sleeps, and normally at night time, but they don't sleep. Well, they sort of sleep in relays, if you like. So in a herd like this, they won't all be asleep at the same time, and they don't sleep deeply. They don't sleep in the same way that we do, where, some of us can sleep so soundly that you can sort of set a bomb off outside the house and we wouldn't wake up. That isn't really the case with these antelope. They tend to be a lot more nervous, so you can see them running off there. That is a beautiful passage the little one is doing. They should take up dressage. That's wonderful. Very impressive. Brent Smith's mother would have been deeply delighted by that. She, of course, used to ride dressage horses. So to answer your question, they all sleep. It just depends on how long. And then if we go all the way to birds, for example, things like swifts, for example, they will sleep on the wing. And they do that by only shutting down half of the brain at a time, and that allows them to fly while resting at the same time. So they all sleep. It just varies in the degree and for how long. Nice question, that. Thank you very much, Erica. Let's hand you over to Brent Smith now, who is probably doing a little bit of a half pass across the Cheetah Plains.
What a treat, what a treat. The killer bees are ecstatic. This is my favorite female leopard that we see over all our traverse. Brian, where does she rank for you?
I don't know, it's only my third time.
Only Brian's third time seeing this female. It is not one of the females we see too often, although we have been incredibly lucky over December with a lot of sightings. This is Inkanyeni, the Queen of the East. Isn't she absolutely gorgeous? A lovely golden color. She's a bit darker. Her coloration's quite a bit darker than Kula, Shadow and Tundi. And I think that's what I like about her so much. Also, her lovely, long, fluffy ears. Oh, she's coming right towards us in this magnificent light. Remember, hashtag Safari Live if you want to ask any questions about this exquisite female leopard. Hello, madam. She is gorgeous. Out of frame she goes, right behind the car. And we do need to thank Andrew for this. Isn't this awesome? Thanks very much, M4. You've made my end of 2016. It's my favorite Ingwe. Yes, it is. Did you see me try to drive out of the wild dogs this morning? Oh, it is very bad. Yes, sir, you heard me there. Andrew was asking if my clutch was working now. My clutch stopped working during our rehearsal this morning, and we were following wild dogs, which made life quite difficult. Now, I just hope she hangs around so we can bring the new year in with the incredible Inkanyeni, and who knows, maybe the young Vutomi, who is her about 13-and-a-half-month-old male cub. We need her to catch something nice and big and sit in this big marula tree we're going to park underneath. There we go. Beautiful tree for a beautiful leopard. Maybe she'll even climb it. I have seen her in trees quite regularly. Her name, Inkanyeni, is actually a marula tree, and it's because of her fondness for sitting in big marula trees. So Andrew said she was calling a little bit earlier, so she could be looking for the young riffraff Vutomi. Oh, now see what she's doing now. She's going right into that thicket. There could be a scrub hare in there. It's a good place for a steenbok to rest. So I love it when leopards do that. When we've seen Quarantine do that, we've actually seen them catch a scrub hare doing exactly that. She might have smelt something, heard something that just made her want to have a quick look in that little thicket. And you can see how that dappled camouflage works fantastically well. And it sounds like a lot of you out there are just as happy as I am to see the beautiful Queen of the East. And her young male Vutomi is also becoming a fast favorite of mine. But I do have a soft spot for all young male leopards around that age. Oh, she got stuck in there. Janet is wondering how old Inkanyeni is. She's, if I remember correctly, she's 11 or so. No, maybe a bit younger. 11 or 10? Oh no, she's found something she likes. There's a plant that she's rubbing on. She must like the smell. Now, we don't get catnip here, but leopards do like certain smells, and they do like to rub up against those smells. And I think that's exactly what's happened. She's probably found Now, for a second, I thought that was a naughty plant, and I just have a look there, but I actually know what it is now. I think it's called a khaki bos, and it's a very strong-smelling plant, and it does tend to have the slight look of another plant species. Of course, marijuana is what it looked like, but it is not a marijuana plant. Of course, marijuana is indigenous to Africa. But that is not. It's a thing called khaki bos or khaki weed, and it is a really strong smell. I find the smell quite unpleasant, but obviously she really likes it. I'll try, if I see some, I'll try, there's some right next to us, break off a branch and see what, I don't know how to describe the smell. Maybe Brian will be able to do it better than I. Oh. Sorry, 1 second. Keep coming, she's on Hornbill's nest still. She's stationary at the moment. Look at that, isn't that incredible? She's absolutely loving that khaki boss. Oh, and I said, I don't know how to describe the smell, so I'm just leaning out of the car to pick some. There's right next to us. Yeah, it's definitely khaki boss she's rolling in. Brian, I'm going to give it to you. What would you describe that as? I find it quite unpleasant. Brian's thinking.
Oh, it's delicious.
You like the smell? I think it's childhood memories of having to cut it out, because it can be a serious weed in your grandmother's garden.
Very sweet.
A very sweet smell. Sweet with a sort of, I'm trying to think, it reminds me of something, but I can't remember what it is.
Very nice.
I think it's those weeding days that remind me of it, that I don't like the smell. But she certainly loves the smell. Not see her sleeping in the base of that thicket. Now, while Brian and I decide exactly what khaki boss smells like, we're going to have a long discussion, I think, Brian. We should. And we're going to go across to Jamie with one of the animals that has the highest protein biomass in the African savannah.
I'm with Brent on that. I'm not a particular fan of the smell of khaki bush, but moving on from scents to interesting sights of the bush. A little bit earlier I said I wanted to try and work out where these alates or reproductive termites were emerging from. And we've come around the back of this termite mound and found about, I would say, between 4 or 5 different exits that have obviously, from what we can see here, they obviously get constructed by the tiny pale little workers that break open a tunnel, and then there we go, out comes a winged reproductive. Oh, bye then. That one's less keen on the big wide world. I think it saw me and decided that it wasn't having any of this. It's interesting, they do clearly have some degree of survival instinct, which you don't always get to see with these reproductive alates, because they seem to have an almost self-destructive pattern of behavior. But when something like this happens, when you get these reproductives coming out, it is an explosion, and it is a very, very positive force for many different creatures out here. Now, I was going to, in the entire time that we've been sitting here, I was going to tell you that they were averaging about, there we go, thank you, and off it goes. I was going to tell you that we were averaging about 20 alates emerging per minute. There we go, now we've got a regular pattern back. Obviously it was just a break in the conduction line. There we go, here comes another one. So I've been sitting counting, and we've probably got about 20 of them coming out per minute. And just think, what's that? 60 minutes an hour? That is 1,200 in 1 hour popping out, and that's just one of the 4 or 5 holes. So you're looking at close to 6,000 coming out in 1 hour. Isn't that amazing? Arathusa, you wants to know while we watch them pop out if they need to find a mate before they can produce offspring. Yes, as far as I know they do. So the alates, that's why they do their little dance with the pheromones. They have to go and find their lucky number 2, and they will then settle in and become, well, the female of course will become the first queen of the termite mound, and the male will probably become the first king, and their offspring will she'll start to produce lots and lots as she goes along, little workers, and eventually colonize her own termite mound. However, it is not very successful a very large percent of the time. Wow, this is incredible. Sorry. This is what's so amazing about a termite mound like this. Oh, now we've just missed it. But there's all kinds of fascinating things happening around here. So I've abandoned the hole for now, but you've got a general idea of how it's all working. But as you move a little bit further afield, you have got this trail of destruction, but also of incredible opportunities for the different creatures out here. So the ants have all gathered, lots of different species of ants have all gathered around the outside here to pick up any of the carcasses of the termites that don't make it and transporting them. But this ant here has just caught and killed a termite, actively caught and killed a termite, and is now fighting with another ant. Oh, it won. This is amazing. I don't want to pick it up because the termite is still fighting back. Jean-Andre, can you see it a little bit, or is it? You can. This poor termite is still struggling, and the ant has got it clamped in vicious, very sharp jaws. Now, the cool thing about this particular hunting ant is that it looks like a termite. It looks like it is a termite. It looks like a member. Oh, I think it's got away. No, it's about to. Let me try and move this around. And let me try and... Oh, there he goes. He's popped out into the open. And that's it, I think. That's the end of it for the reproductive termite. And the larger and much more powerful ant is making off with its steel. And I've been watching them. They're lurking all around here, waiting to see and pounce on any reproductive member that pops out. It's quite fascinating to watch, and it just goes to show all that's happening in an area like this with the termites exploding out. I cannot tell you what a valuable source of food this is for so many different creatures. One of which was a scorpion. Wait, hold on, let me grab this. Even for something like this poor hapless scorpion that didn't succeed, these would also be a very, very important... Fly on my nose. Still fly on my nose. There we go. Even for a scorpion, these would serve to be a very important food source. And of course, scorpions, frogs, all attracted to this area, make brilliant food items for other creatures. Hannes or Tannis or Stannis, I'm not 100% sure, for which I do apologize. It was one of those 3 names that asked a question. Tannis, Tango. Sorry. Tango. Tannis, you want to know what is it that makes the termites make these large termite mounds. And of course this is a particularly large one, and one that we would probably have dismissed as not being terribly interesting until we realize that it is in fact active. Well, it's very few alates that manage to actually successfully implant themselves into the ground and start to build up this termite mound. And this termite mound would have taken decades to build to this sort of height. We're still not sure exactly how many years, but it would have taken a very, very long time. So this would have been planted from the ground up, and it would have been started by just 2 of those alates producing offspring, and slowly but surely building up a termite mound. And we'll show you, we'll look for the beginnings of a termite mound, and we'll show you exactly what it looks like. And while I'm standing up here, it gives me a really nice perspective. And as I said there were about 5 different holes, I was wrong. There's probably about 10 different holes that alates are emerging from. And there's this sort of beautiful golden light as the air is filled with thousands upon thousands of reproductive termites. And this is just one termite mound. Now, they really truly are the most incredible creatures, and I know we go on about it at this time of year, but it does provide us with the most incredible opportunities and the most incredible sightings as well. That was nearly a gentle slide down the termite mound. So there's actually this entire termite mound dotted with holes that the termites are emerging from. And I bet you that these workers are actually the ones that are preparing the tunnels. I bet they're actually being sacrificed because they're not built for working in heat like this or in sun like this. And that's generally why we don't see them on a day like today. But they're coming out constantly, and I think that's so that they can prepare the exit tunnels for the reproductive alates, and they're just basically treated as pawns, as sacrificial pawns to provide those exit tunnels, smooth them out and make them safe, and actually probably to provide as a decoy for the reproductive alates. Right, we are going to be taking a short break. Don't go away. Brent's with Inkanyeni, James is on Arathusa, and I'm on foot. We'll see you soon. Hold off speaking, and back with internet. Cool. So, I'm not very good at holding off speaking because it gets awkward staring into the bushwalk camera after a while. Right. While we carry on, let's go over to James's highly mobile Chelonian sighting.
Highly mobile terrapin. It is indeed. Now, what's interesting here is that we often wonder where on earth they go when there isn't water, and I think that this particular marsh terrapin, which comes out into small water holes like the one just in front of us, is about to show us. Seems to be digging itself down into a little hole, which I think is quite fun. No, decided that wasn't a good place to dig. Now, there's a Burchell starling sitting above it, which you can't see. And I wonder why the starling is sitting there. It's just flown in, it's probably spotted it, and wondered if it wasn't something that it might like to alarm call at. Here's the starling, right here. Isn't that gorgeous? There we go, it's going right down to the terrapin. I've no idea why it should be doing that. Seems a bit odd to me. Isn't that colour gorgeous? Now the terrapin is just underneath it there. Wonderful. Like I say, I can't really figure out why it would want to be there. Safe to say, maybe it thought their alarm call, you know, when they see things that want to eat them, their alarm call, and terrapins do grab birds when they come down to puddles, so maybe it's just doing a bit of a security check around the place. Isn't that special? I think that's just one of the best sightings I've had of a Burchell starling. It's only sitting about 10 feet from us. Hello, Green Eyes, and you say that colour is absolutely beautiful. You're agreeing with me, it is beautiful, but what's so interesting is that it's not colour at all. Isn't that amazing? It's not a colour, it's an iridescence, which means that although to our eyes it looks colourful, it's reflecting blues and greens and purples and some blacks, but it's actually a clever trick of light played by keratin and by melanin crystals and air pockets in between the cells of the feathers and the barbs of the feathers, and those reflect certain wavelengths of light. So in this case, blue and green and purple, but there's no pigment that makes the bird that color. Isn't that amazing? Now it is doing its best to sing for us a New Year's song, but a Burchell starling doesn't have the best voice in the world, I'm afraid. Now, we're about to go back to television in 40 seconds. Now, I hope you've also been enjoying Brent Leo Smythe and Inkanyeni. That is really quite exciting, I must say. Right, 20 seconds, everybody. Brush your hair. Make sure your hat is okay. Is my hat okay, David?
Yes.
Oh, they're going to strap me when we come back. That's quite nice. Welcome back, everybody, to your live safari from the western fringes of one of the world's greatest and most iconic wilderness areas, the Western Kruger National Park. My name is James Hendry. David is on camera. Brent Leo Smith has been sitting with the leopard. Jamie's been with some termites and some frogs and some crickets and various other fantastic small things, and it's a gorgeous afternoon out here. Talk to us, please, during the course of the safari. Hashtag Safari Live is hard to get hold of us, and it'll be lovely to have your comments and your questions. Over there, a pond filled what used to be with some terrapins, but they seem to have hidden. Alright, everyone, that is the end of my advertisement sort of come out of thing. Prodler, you want to know how many starlings we see in a year? I'm going to assume that you mean how many starling species as opposed to how many individual starlings. I've never counted the number of individual starlings that I've seen during a year, but in terms of species, there are 5 species of starling that we get here, and I shall show them to you if you'd like me to. We've had the Burchell starling there. Then we have the greater blue-eared glossy starling. That's quite a mouthful at any time of the day. Look, my bookmark was in the right place. There's the greater blue-eared glossy starling. Then we get the Cape glossy starling down there, which is almost indistinguishable from the greater blue-eared, except for the fact that it doesn't have a great blue ear. That's correct, but they're often very difficult to see because of the iridescence. My earpiece has just popped out. Excuse me, everybody. Put it back in. There we are. And then we've got the Burchell starling, which of course you've seen. It's over there. Sorry, we get 6 species. Do we? No, it's 5 species. There you are. Then the plum-coloured or violet-backed starling. And the rarest one, he's only here in summer, the rarest one is the wattled starling. And there's the wattled starling there. And the wattled starling, sorry about my shadow there, the wattled starling is nomadic, so it's not migratory, it just means it's not always here. So they will sometimes be here and sometimes they won't, just depends on where the good stuff to eat is. Okay, so that, or those are the 5 starlings that we get here. On we go. Just tuck that back into my head so it doesn't come out. Sometimes thinks it might be a good idea to have these earpieces and microphones sewn into our skin. What do you think, David?
Yeah.
It'd be a good idea, wouldn't it? We'll see if Jerry can do that when we get home. She's quite handy with a needle. Right, there we go. Right, we've got a mixed up communication from the final control, which I think said, link Brent Inkanyeni.
Well, she hasn't left her little thicket and is still enjoying the scent of the khaki boss, no doubt. Now, Brian and I still can't quite decide what it smells like. Of course, you can see there's Ephraim. Hi, Eph. Who's joined us here while we're smelling the khaki boss and waiting for the Queen of the East, Inkanyeni, to start moving again. I'm really hoping that she discovers Vutomi now. So you can see a very serrated little edge to the leaves, but that smell is very, very distinct. There's very little else that smells like that, and she was behaving like a domestic cat would behave with catnip while rolling around and smelling the khaki boss. Now, Brian likes the smell. I think it is thoroughly unpleasant. It can be used as an insect repellent because it smells so bad, Brian. But it's a very distinct smell, and it's not something you forget easily. Now, I know a lot of you have been wondering about what happened with Inkanyeni, quarantine, and Vutomi recently. And it is just one of those incredible things, and there is no explanation. as I say many times, leopards can do the complete opposite to what they're said to have to do in the guidebook. So just one of those really incredible lucky encounters that Shanae had, having all those leopards interacting together. Now, I was hoping she might get moving again shortly. Now, we don't want her to go north, we want her to keep going west. And I'm hoping that Vutomi is somewhere around here. Andrew said she was calling a little bit earlier, so that means that young male could be close at hand. That camouflage is just incredible. Now, James is wondering, does Inkanyeni's territory extend into Chitwa? I don't think so, James. I think it's probably somewhere in Cheetah Plains. Oh, there we go. What is she up to? Is she rubbing again? No, she's giving herself a bit of a lick. Or is she rubbing? I can't really see. No, a bit of preening. So probably, I'd say the boundary for Inkanyeni and Tundi is somewhere around the Cheetah Plains Lodge, probably just east of the Cheetah Plains Lodge. F, what do you think? Yeah. There we go. Ephraim, who lives here, he's the man, he knows. So the boundary is to the east of the Cheetah Plains Lodge. So just as we come into Cheetah Plains, somewhere around that area. But most of Inkanyeni's territory is to the east into the Kruger National Park. That's why it's always such a treat to see this leopard, because she does spend a lot of time outside of the Sabi Sands. Now, if you hear me smacking myself, it's just to try and fight off the biting flies. Now, Janet's wondering, does the khaki boss smell like licorice? Janet, it doesn't. It smells like khaki boss.
It smells delicious.
And Brian says it smells delicious. I think it smells disgusting. Jamie agrees with me. It's a very sweet, almost sickly sweet smell, I would say. I'm trying to think of how to describe it. It smells like khaki boss. Brian wants to have another smell. Let's see what Brian thinks. What do you think it smells like, F? Not good. There we go. Brian, there's something wrong with you. Everyone else seems to think it smells disgusting. Brian likes it. He's inhaling it deeply at the moment. Well, we know
Splendid.
Splendid. I thought you said spearmint. I was like, no, it definitely doesn't smell like spearmint.